Well, but you also said just a few moments ago that 85% of the people who are represented by the Public Defender's Office are either black or Latino. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you believe that race or racism plays a role in the extent to which resources are disproportionately shifted to the state's attorney's office versus the public defender's office?
Of course, I believe that that impacts the criminal justice system. I believe that it deals with the disproportionate minority confinement or contact with the system. I think that to say that race doesn't play a part in individuals who are arrested, first of all, who are charged, how they're treated during their contact with the criminal justice system, to say that that has nothing to do with race, I think is either naive or disingenuous.
Explain to me, and I know we talked some in the green room, you're married, you have children, I know you're passionate about your job, but you have to keep your job, obviously. You're not a millionaire unless, you haven't told me, but...
I am not a millionaire,
okay.
That's correct.
Then where do you get the courage and the conviction to state that there is racism in the criminal justice system and not be afraid from the powers that be who, basically hold sway over your job to, not take it away from you? Well,
I believe for the most part that the powers that be have an interest and have a commitment to the criminal justice system. I think it's a continuing challenge to have them empathize with the people that I represent, because the people that I represent, basically, this may be a defense counsel's bunker mentality, but I believe that nobody cares about them but us. So my job is to advocate for them, and my job, though important, is not important as the office of the public defender and it being independent and being able to advocate for our clients. So there needs to be individuals in this job who will advocate not only for our clients, but the individuals who represent them, which are the lawyers, support staff, and investigators that put their blood, sweat, and tears into representing these folks every day.
Let me ask you a couple of questions before I return to some of the things that have been written in the news recently. What do you say to the people in the Chicago area, who are watching you and I as we speak? What can the average citizen do, if anything, to improve the justice system such that some of the racism and disparities that you talk about don't exist? Is there anything that the average person at home can do?
I think that there is. I think that they can educate themselves as to what impact it has on them. There's going to be some issues about raising taxes and things of that nature. People need to know how public safety impacts them. They need to educate themselves about what system public defenders do and how they are expected to operate. That is, most people who have contact with the criminal justice system have contact with assistant public defenders because we represent the overwhelming majority of people who go through the system. So a lot of people don't know what to expect from a lawyer. They don't know they don't know that what they get from us is the same they would get from a private counsel. They have no way of knowing that. So they need to educate themselves as to what they can expect to receive from a defense counsel, whether it's private or public.
Well, speaking of private counsel, there was a big case here in Chicago in the last 30 or 60 days, the Conrad Black case. And of course, he probably spent millions of dollars. R. Kelly's case is still out there pending, and he has private counsel. Would you agree with the perception that the rich who are charged of crimes or accused of crimes and can afford private counsel get a better level of representation than the folks in your office are able to provide?
Well, they get more resources available. But in terms of skills and lawyering, I would match lawyers in our office against any of the lawyers who try those cases.
Well, let me ask you, for example, about R. Kelly. His case has been out there for years, and he's got, private counsel. Would the average person being represented by somebody in your office get to, string out a case 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
Probably not. And if I have anything to do with it, that is not going to happen, because the people that we represent are poor, and the people that we represent can't afford for a case to be strung out too long. I'm one of those rare defense counsel who wants to move cases effectively through the system, because the people that I represent can't afford to spend 6 months on a case that we can get done in 6 weeks, because that job is not going to wait for them that long. That family is not going to be functional. That neighborhood and what they fit into is not going to welcome them home after that length of time. So I think that a client-friendly way of addressing cases is to move cases effectively through the system. Now, lawyers might want to keep cases longer, so it may not be lawyer-friendly, but it's client-friendly to move cases through the system effectively.
Well, you talk about moving cases through the system effectively. Let me read something to you that was written in the Chicago Tribune not too long ago, and I'm going to quote. It says, "The Cook County Public Defender's Office has done a poor job of visiting its clients at the center and pressing to improve the conditions there." And the center they're referring about is the Juvenile Detention Center. So your office has come under criticism for not moving cases through the system and not, watching after, some of the most vulnerable in society, meaning kids out at the juvenile center. What was your response to that?
Well, to a large extent, that's true. We do need to do a better job, but a lot of it is not the fault of the individual lawyers handling the cases. The problem is with leadership not making sure that they have access to youngsters once they're in the detention center to be able to visit them. We have had some concerns over the last couple of years about the access that we have to our clients in the juvenile detention center. And to be quite honest with you, the individual who's responsible for advocating for that access, you're looking at. So we have done better in that regard. But that is totally my responsibility to advocate with whoever the superintendent or the individuals who are caretakers there to give us access to our clients.
But the Juvenile Detention Center comes under the auspices of the Cook County Board, is that right?
It did until recently. Now it's under the auspices of the Chief Judge.
Well, is that effective? Is that effective immediately?
That transition is going on now.
Okay. So at least when the criticism was leveled, it was being leveled at the very people who appointed you to your position, which is the Cook County Board. Is that right?
Well, I think that criticism was leveled pretty much at our office.
Okay.
But keep in mind that criticism followed an assessment or an evaluation of our Juvenile Justice Division that I asked for. So that media attention, and they found that out because of an evaluation that I asked to be done. And I asked the individuals who conducted the evaluation to do it so that we would find out what we do good, what we do bad, and what we needed to do better.
So in essence, are you saying then that the editorial and the position taken by the Tribune is a fair indictment of your office and that your office needed to do better, it wasn't doing better?
Well, I think that it's a fair but incomplete, because even though we don't do as well as we could, we're improving.
Fair enough. Let me turn your attention to something else. As the public defender, as the primary defender and leader of that office, I know from time to time you take positions in the press, and I want to read something that you wrote in the Sun-Times not long ago about stopping rogue cops. And you wrote, there are police officers who are allowed to terrorize minority communities with brutality, coercion, torture, and retaliation. And individuals wrongly convicted through the use of such tactics have cost Chicago residents millions of tax dollars settling lawsuits and defending these rogue officers. You wrote that.
Yes.
The mayor is at the top of the food chain with the police department, isn't that right?
Yes.
And so would it be fair then to say that with respect to these rogue police officers, again, who you say terrorize minority communities, that tone gets set from the mayor's office, isn't that right?